you really only have two options. Option A is you can strive to become super rich, strive for excellency, strive for the vain things, the supercar, the big house, the whole following the Jones bullshit. And then you get to a point where you end up making so much money that you're able to sustain that lifestyle. Or option B is you just decide that you're not even going to play the game anymore. And I don't think I'm going to play the game anymore. I'd watch guys like, Alex Hormozy and Gary Vee and all these guys who, they say, hit it hard, hit it every day, hustle, 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 which there's some truth to that. You do have to, obviously having a solid work ethic is definitely part of the equation to success, but I think a part of the conversation that doesn't get talked about enough is option B, which is you could just decide not to play the game. And I think more people are opting to say, you know what, rather than striving to, be rich and hustle and, create a fortune for, me and my legacy and this whole egotistical shit. I think more people, myself included, we're just going to pick option B, which option B kind of includes elements from option A, right? Again, you need a good work ethic, you need a good hustle, but I'm going to be on some Diogenes shit. I'm just going to work my ass off, right? I'm in my early 20s. I'm going to just work my ass off and then basically live in an RV on some land, and then basically decide to not be a fucking cog in this machine. At least not have to. Obviously we're all cogs in some way, shape, or form, right? But I think more people are going to start picking option B, which is just, I think the new rich, the new way, the new wealth, the new money is not so much the supercars, it's not so much the big houses like when you think of early 2000s rappers. I think the new form of success is flexibility and adaptability, but flexibility is the key word there. If you're in your early 20s and you're making a decent salary, you're making 50, 60, 70, 50 to 80k, or shit, even 100, who knows, whoever's watching this, and you just put yourself in a position where you don't have the fancy car, you don't have the crazy house. Like, I'm gonna move back in with my parents just to save some bread and get an RV and just live on some land that I was fortunate enough to have inherited. I spoke about that in my earlier videos, but I think the new generation, we're going to start thinking of these alternatives. We're going to start thinking of alternatives because the state of this world, how expensive everything is, it's just not sustainable. Like, Normal is no longer possible. It takes extreme measures just to achieve, in quotes, normal, right? In quotations. It's like, I'll be honest, I feel like I have a definite edge in my life. You know, I make good money. I'm in my early 20s. I don't have no kids. I don't have no mortgage. I have a car payment. But damn, it's like, I can only imagine how guys with kids and a mortgage and a car, I can't imagine how, you know, absolutely stressed they must feel. And like I was saying in my previous video titled Freedom, I guess you could kind of think of this like a part 2 to that. But I believe the new wealth, the new rich, my generation of rich, if you're in your early 20s or late 20s, I think the new thing that's in vogue forcibly will have to be living heavily below your means, like the fucking, like Boomer Ramsey says. It's true, but I think you're gonna have to even take it a step further. It's gonna have to say, one now has to reject having children in order to survive in this world, because that's how crazy and expensive shit has gotten. That's how inflated everything is. And you know, this just isn't sustainable. Like, again, mentally I feel burnt out, and I don't even have kids. I don't have a mortgage. I have a car payment, and that stresses me the fuck out. It's like I can only imagine like a guy in his late 20s or early 30s, or fuck, who knows, late 30s, and they have the mortgage and all that. Like, that's wild to me. They must feel so hopeless right now. And you know what? Like I was saying earlier, how there's option A where you can strive to, you know, hustle and get rich and aim big. There's nothing wrong with, you know, having a big vision, a big dream. I have big dreams, I have big visions, but you also got to get real and realize that desperate times call for desperate measures, and that's going to have to mean not having kids. If it's, again, because I am speaking to a certain demographic of people, I'm speaking to people who want, you know, independence from the world, and, you know, work because one wants to, not because one has to survive. And if you have children, you objectively you have to work. But I'm speaking to those who want to place themselves in a position, who are able to be flexible and adapt and mold their life into a position where they can take extreme measures to gain freedom, while you're still flexible, do the things that require desperate measures. Because desperate times call for desperate measures. So sorry, our generation can't afford a house. That's bye-bye. But what are you gonna do, bitch and moan, or are you just gonna adapt? You're gonna adapt and play the game, and play the game in a more intelligent fashion. And I'm gonna play the game in a more intelligent fashion. You know? Fortunately, I was inherited land that, you know, that's not something a lot of people can fucking say. Like, that in and of itself is a huge blessing. But I think few people are willing to take the desperate measures to really squeeze or really maximize the cards that they're dealt in their life. And I don't care if that means living back with my parents. Obviously, I'm going to be helping them, you know, with their mortgage and all that, so it's a win-win. I'm basically helping them retire earlier, you know, by cutting their mortgage in half, and I'm not paying a fucking landlord. And then on top of that, again, I am speaking in a privileged position, I understand this, but you too can replicate this. You can replicate this position I'm doing. Again, maybe you don't have parents. Maybe you can, split the bill with some roommates and shit, and then save up for some land, and then get an RV, and then put it on the land. These are just ideas, right? I'm just trying to shed some light from my life to someone listening who wants what I call true freedom, true independence. Now, obviously, this is a whole lot easier as a single guy, because few women want to put up with this sort of lifestyle. It's not sexy. It's just bare bones, practical survival in this day and age. And it sounds crazy just saying that, but it's the truth. Yeah, I just wanted to get that off my chest.